Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're just letting everybody get into the session here. So we'll be getting going in just a moment. Great. All right, one more moment. I think everybody will be here. Thank you all for your patience as we're letting the technology do its thing. Okay, I think that looks like just about everybody. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to see so many of you here with us this afternoon. My name is Charlie Wiseman. I'm the department chair for computer science and networking, which includes majors in computer science, computer networking, and cybersecurity. Our orientation this afternoon is going to give you a little bit of information that's important for the fall semester. We're going to introduce you to a few of the faculty. You'll get a chance to ask lots of questions. Mostly today is really about ensuring that at the end of this session, anything that you're still unsure about, unclear on, anything that you're hoping to get, a little bit deeper information about, whether that's courses in particular or the fall schedule or whatever it might be, really we're going to be here to help you answer those questions. So that's what today is mostly about. Of course, when the session's done today, if you walk away with questions that you didn't get answered, don't hesitate to reach out to me or any of the faculty or staff you meet today. We'd all be happy to help you answer any questions or any concerns that you might have. So before we kind of get started, I'm going to introduce a few of the faculty, or more correctly, let them introduce themselves. So first, let's start with Professor Jones-Yu. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, hello everyone. This is Professor Jones-Yu, and I'm an associate professor in computer science and networking at Wentworth. So my main research in HCI focus on mobile health, AI on mobile, and readability enhancement. So in terms of the teaching, I am mainly teach computer science 1, computer science 2, web app development, mobile app development, and also we try to extend mobile and web technology to medical domain. So these are all the things I am doing. So thank you, and hope today I can help answer all the questions you have. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Jones. Professor Mira, why don't you go next?
Hi guys, this is Mira Yoon, and welcome to Wentworth. And I'm teaching mainly wireless, so Wi-Fi, cellular, or satellite, all of them. And then this for freshmen, I'm teaching intro networks. So welcome to join Wentworth, and then hope to see you guys soon.
Thanks, Mira. Professor Ray Hanson, why don't you go next?
Hi, everyone. I'm Professor Hanson. I am the lead faculty member in the cybersecurity program. I also occasionally teach some of the networking courses as needed. But I also do a lot of research and practice in digital forensics discipline, specifically network forensics. So as many of you progress up to the advanced electives, I may see a bunch of you in some of those forensics courses.
Thanks, Ray. We're also joined by our department coordinator, Dave. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dave Albanese. I am the academic coordinator for the department. So generally, any questions you have about curriculum or facilities or transferring courses, generally, if you're not sure who to go to, I'm a good first point of contact for that kind of stuff. I can try to get back to you as soon as I can if you shoot me an email. And if I don't know the answer, I can at least point you in the right direction of who to talk to. So again, welcome to Wentworth. And to echo what Mira said, hopefully we can all eventually actually see each other in person sooner rather than later. So back to you, Charlie.
Thanks, Dave. Again, I'm Charlie Wiseman. I teach kind of across lots of different courses these days. Usually I teach more in the computer networking program, things like system admin, network admin, intro to networks. I do CS1 and CS2. I've dabbled in the cybersecurity space as well. I've done some work with malware analysis and reverse engineering. So probably I will see all of you at some point in some class. But also as your department chair, I'm here for you to help with whatever questions come up throughout your entire time here at Wentworth. Most of the time when you need help with something, you can go to your advisor, you can come to me, you can go to Dave. There's lots of people to help out as you're traversing the Wentworth experience, whether that happens to be online or in person. And again, hopefully we'll all be back to that before too terribly long. So I think what I'd like to do is spend a couple of minutes and just talk about a couple of big picture things for the department, and then also speak to each major very briefly. We're fortunate the three faculty we have with us here today very nicely represent our three programs. So, any questions that come up relevant to those programs, we can definitely answer for you today. The other thing I'll mention is if you have questions or comments or anything, please put them into the chat. It's easiest, I think, for us to monitor that. Some of us can respond in the chat, but we'll also be calling out questions with the audio here so that everyone can hear the answers. So if you have anything in particular as we're going, anytime, just put it in the chat and we can address anything that way. So first, just in case it's not obvious, again, we have three majors in this department: computer science, computer networking, and cybersecurity. And for the three majors, you're all represented in the room today. There's a lot of overlap in the three. One of the questions that I hear a lot is, I applied to computer science or applied to cybersecurity, but I'm not sure if that's really what I want. Don't stress out about that. You'll see that in the first year, there's a lot of overlap in all three majors. We have students every semester who switch from one program to another, or even to programs outside of our department, like applied math or computer engineering or business management. So, what we're talking about today is really focusing on the three majors as they are. But if you ever have questions or concerns or you're thinking that maybe you want to switch majors, let me know. And particularly if you're thinking you even might want to be changing majors before you start here in September, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I've helped several of you in the room already with that. We can always get that sorted out before you actually show up for classes in September. So reach out anytime if you have questions or need any help around that. What I'd like to do then is just very briefly talk about the coursework that you'll be doing in your first semester here. If you're a computer science student this fall, you'll be signing up for 4 classes. You'll be taking Computer Science 1, you'll be taking Discrete Math, you'll be taking Calculus 1, and you'll be taking English. For English, you'll see here it's listed as English sequence. You might have been contacted about doing an English placement test. If you were, then the results of that placement test will tell you which English class you take this fall. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you haven't heard about a placement test, that's okay. That just means you'll be taking English 1. So these 4 classes, what you'll be looking at, again, Computer Science 1 is introductory programming. We use the Java programming language here. Calculus, of course, is calculus. English is English. Discrete Math, you might not be as familiar with. This is actually the most important math class you'll take as a computing major. This course is the kind of underlying logical foundations of computing. And you'll see the themes in Discrete Math repeated over and over in the field of computer science and computing more broadly. So it's a very important class, which is why it's front and center first semester here. For computer networking majors, you'll be taking Computer Science 1. You'll also be taking Introduction to Networks. This Introduction to Networks class is a kind of broad overview of networking and systems. You'll talk about things like the OSI model. You'll see how most different kinds of equipment kind of work in general, like what is a router, what is a switch. You'll get some experience with the Linux operating system if you don't have any of that previously. So you'll touch on several different areas that underlie all of networking and systems. You'll also take English. Again, either you'll be contacted for an English placement test, which will tell you which course you'll be signed up for, or you'll be taking English 1 if you haven't been contacted about the test. And then you'll be taking pre-calculus. And then cybersecurity students, kind of in the middle there, you'll be also taking Intro to Networks and CS1 and the English course, and then you'll be taking Discrete Math. So again, you'll see even here at the beginning of the first semester, there's a lot of overlap between the different majors we have, and that's intentional. So you'll be sitting in classes with all three of the majors here: CS, networking, cyber, and of course with other majors as well. A couple of thoughts about these courses that come up a lot. Some of you might have AP credit. Maybe that's AP credit in computer science. Maybe that's AP credit in something like calculus or literature. We do accept a lot of AP credit at Wentworth. If you took the calculus AB exam and you get a 3 or better, you get credit for Calc 1. If you did the BC exam, you get credit for Calc 1 and Calc 2. If you did the computer science A exam, the Java exam, and you got a 3 or better, you get credit for CS1, and you can start right into CS2 here. And if you got some of the English credits, you get credit for either English 1 or English 1 and English 2, depending on the test. There's also a smattering of other courses. You know, I know some of you have AP exams in things like history or economics or psychology. Those are generally also accepted, as are some of the science exams. There's a link here. This will be posted on the website. There's a link here that you can grab this at later. Most importantly, it's just in the catalog, so you can see all of the AP credits we accept. And if you're not sure or just want to ask again, just reach out to me or Dave and we can help with that. Generally speaking, for orientation, normally we would all be on campus together and we would sit down with you at a computer and you would register for classes while you were participating in orientation. Obviously, we're not doing that since we're all remote. Now that we've determined for the most part what our fall is going to look like, our registrar's office is hard at work to get everything ready so that you will all be registered for classes in the coming weeks or month or so. I'm not entirely clear on the time frame yet. I think they're still determining when exactly that'll happen. But basically, you'll be signing up for these courses unless you have some sort of AP credit, right? They would change it. So if you had CS1 credit, you would start in the CS2, for example. Some of you in the audience are also transfer students that are coming in with significant coursework from another school. For those of you, what you really need to do is reach out to me. And I will work with you to make sure we have a good course plan for you based on your transfer credit. The department and the registrar's office have already been hard at work getting your schedules together for you for the fall for new transfer students. But generally, you want to reach out to me sometime in the next few days or week so that we can go ahead and build a long-term plan for you and make sure that you'll be all set come September. There's a few other just sort of minor things that I want to bring up. Again, mostly, you know, this would happen during registration. It may come up for you in the coming weeks as well. When you're going to register, you know, you might try to register for a course that's full. Obviously, if it's full, you'll be unable to register for it. Usually it shows up as a C instead of a checkbox you can use to select a course. You do have to take lectures and labs that are paired. So a good example here, if you were going to sign up for Computer Science 1, the first section, then you see the very next section in the registration system says lab, so you register for those together. The lecture and lab are kind of paired hand in hand, so you register for the two that are together. So obviously, you know, as your fall schedules are being finalized, anytime that you have a question or a concern, you're not sure about something, you're thinking about AP credit, you don't know if you want to take it, you can always reach out to us. Again, my contact info here, Dave's contact info, we'll put all of our emails in the chat as well. Lisa Maness on our campus also handles a lot of stuff related to English and math courses, but you can always reach out to me or Dave and we can put you in touch with her or the right person. So generally, you know, anytime between now and September and really beyond, if a question comes up about something, you don't know what to do, just reach out to me or Dave and we can help get you sorted out. The courses, so this gives you an idea of the courses that you'll be taking. I do want to circle back to talk about Computer Science 1 just for one more moment. If you got AP credit for Computer Science 1, what's going to happen is I'm going to be sending you some info about what we do in Computer Science 1 at Wentworth, the topics we cover, the expectations we have, and it'll be up to you if you want to stay in CS2 and accept that credit, or you might want to take CS1 with us anyway. We've had a lot of students in the past who, you know, maybe even got a 4 or a 5 on the AP test, but didn't really feel super confident in your programming abilities. And if that's the case, you can take CS1 with us. You'll have a leg up. You'll probably have a relatively smooth experience because of that. I also don't want you to be bored. So that's why we accept the credit. If you did really well on the AP computer science exam and in the course in high school, and you really know Java programming well, then you should definitely start into computer science too, so you can start learning new stuff right away. It's always kind of a balance between those. And again, you'll get an email from me. And if you're not sure, if you want to talk about it, you can always reach out to me and we can have a conversation to make sure you start in the right course here. But it's based on our experience in the past. We've seen students who did very well in the AP exam and course in high school and struggled in CS2. And we've seen students who didn't do so well on the AP exam, but still did just fine in CS2 here. The other thing I'll mention about CS1 in particular that comes up a lot when we get questions, we do assume in CS1 that you've never done any programming before. Many of you in the audience won't have done any programming before, and that's totally fine. We don't expect you to come in already being programmers of any kind. So don't worry about that. If you've done some programming, either on your own, or maybe you took a class in high school, even if it wasn't the AP class, then you're still going to be in great shape. It just means you're going to be better prepared. You'll sort of have the concepts, the ideas of programming in your head, and that'll help you transition to the college course here smoothly. If you don't have any programming experience and you're stuck at home like most of us are for the next couple of months and you're looking for something to do, I highly recommend that you just poke around with Java, which is the programming language we use in CS1 and CS2. There's lots of great resources online for folks who don't have any experience. Not saying you need to do this, but if you do, and you just kind of start wrapping your head around it a little bit, it'll probably make CS1 go a little easier for you. So definitely something to think about, particularly if you don't have anything else you can be doing with your time right now. Although, I mean, I know who I'm talking to, so if the choice is go learn Java on my own or just fire up the Xbox again, none of us will judge you if you make the latter choice, because we're in the same boat. Okay, good. So I just want to pause for a moment and remind everybody that if you have questions, please put them in the chat so that we can help with it. Any questions about the courses you'll be taking or anything along those lines, make sure that you're typing them in there so that we can get those answered for you.
I have a couple questions to share, Charlie.
Please.
So the first is, how are the schedules being made? Are the students registering, the new students, so freshmen in particular, are they registering for classes themselves, or are these schedules being made for them?
That's a great question. Actually, that hasn't been decided just yet. Normally, as an incoming student, you would make your schedule yourself. You would sit down and register while you were here for orientation. Because we can't do that, obviously, there's been a lot of discussions on, do we let everyone register remotely in some sort of, wave 1, wave 2 kind of thing? Does the registrar's office simply assign a schedule? We've also had a discussion about having kind of block schedules. So there would be here's like 10 different blocks you can choose from where the 4 courses are all together. You just pick one of the options. So that hasn't been decided just yet. You should be getting some information pretty soon about that. I think in the next couple of weeks at most, because obviously we want to get everybody registered sooner rather than later so that we can sort out any issues that might come up. So that should happen pretty soon.
Okay, and the next question is about laptops, and it's kind of a two-parter.
Yeah.
So first is, how do students who start in the fall get their laptops? And the second is, if the student decides to perhaps defer to the spring, how do they receive, do they still get it in the fall, shipped to them, or do they pick it up in the spring? How would that work?
That's also a fantastic question. Again, I don't have a definitive answer. The last I heard from our laptop folks, the intent was to have them shipped to you, but I know they were also talking about a pickup option for those of you that would prefer to just swing by campus and pick it up. So I don't know exactly what the final answer there is. You should be getting contacted about that soon if you haven't already to claim your laptop. As a quick reminder, all majors in this department, you'll be getting the Razer model laptops. So either way, we'll be sure that you have them in time for September classes. If you're deferring until spring, I believe you will not get your laptop until December. Again, I'm not 100% sure on that answer, just given the unusual circumstances we're in. But normally students who defer are given that laptop in December leading up to January, or the first week of January, when our spring semester starts up. I also just saw a message to me privately with a question about claiming the laptop. It sounds like maybe you have some friends who have. Again, I'm not 100% sure on how they're contacting all the students about that. If I would say if you haven't heard anything about the laptop in the next week or so, reach out to me or Dave, and we'll put you in touch with the right folks to make sure that you're not somehow getting left out. Because we want to be absolutely certain that everybody has their laptop with plenty of time for the fall start. Also on the subject, there's really no particular software that you need to have pre-installed. It comes with Office and Word and all those kind of things you'll be using in many of your classes. But in terms of Computer Science 1 and Intro to Networks, all the software you'll be using in those courses you'll install in the first couple of weeks of class. So you don't need to worry about anything there. Any other questions so far, Dave? I'm just looking at the chat.
Yes. How many courses in each of these majors are going to be virtual in the fall?
Oh, great question. Yeah, so basically all of the courses are going to be virtual. All computer science, networking, cybersecurity courses, all math courses, all English and humanities courses are all going to be fully online. And there's a lot of reasons for that we could get into, but the decision was made that that's the safest way that we can deliver the coursework that you need. So for those of you who are transfer students, there might be one or two courses you're taking, particularly science courses, that could have an in-person lab at most. But for the vast majority of you in this room, all of your classes are going to be fully online this fall. You're still welcome. You're still allowed to come to campus. You're still welcome to come and stay in the dorms if you want to. That's certainly up to you. But either way, the courses you'll be taking will be online and virtual, primarily using Zoom and other tools. So the experience you'll have, you would still be doing those courses either from your dorm room or from home if you decide to live at home. The on-campus experience, they're sorting out all the things that are going to happen on campus, what the student life experience is going to look like if you want to come to campus. But by and large, your courses and also things like office hours and help sessions and tutoring, pretty much all of those are going to be happening online, virtually. And we're happy to answer more detailed questions about it. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Sorry. If somebody is considering deferring for the fall, that would be a question for admissions, correct?
That's right.
Yeah,
Definitely.
So for Wentworth admissions, that's who you would speak to about potentially deferring to the spring semester.
Right.
Okay. The question is, how is living on campus going to work if the virus is still an issue in the fall?
That's a fantastic question. And I tried to fix my crystal ball before the session today, but sadly it's broken. So I don't really know. Sorry for the levity, couldn't help it a little bit. I just don't know what it's going to be like. I know that our student affairs and student life and res life folks are working overtime to think about how we can balance the safety of all of our students along with trying to provide some kind of college experience that looks something like what you would have had otherwise. I suspect the number of activities on campus will be a lot lower than normal. There's been discussions about things like student clubs. How are they going to work? And, there will be, for those who are on campus, there will be some options for those sorts of things, but it's going to be more limited than normal. Largely, we have to make sure that we're not putting too many people in any one room. So, you're not going to be in a room with lots and lots of other students or faculty at any particular time. So there's a lot of details to be sorted out. But, everything that can be done safely from a kind of student life experience will be. But as much as I wish it were otherwise, the truth is it's not going to be a lot like a standard semester would have been otherwise. And I know that's hard to hear. It's hard for us to admit. None of us wanted to admit that. We were originally hoping to just have a regular semester this fall, but unfortunately the safety of our students and the faculty and staff has to come first.
Okay, so next question is, if a student chooses to stay home for the fall semester, where does the money for the housing deposit go? And so there's a couple of ways we can interpret that. It's if a student decides not to come to campus, or if a student decides not to attend Wentworth, what happens to the housing deposit?
Right. I'm not actually sure about the deposit. I mean, certainly if you decide not to live on campus this fall for whatever reason, then you're not going to be paying room and board. The particular housing deposit, I can't speak to. Normally when you pay a deposit, that's kind of it. But I mean, I know what I would like to assume and what I would like to say, but I don't want to speak without knowing anything particular. So whoever asked that question, maybe follow up with me and I'll see if I can find an answer for you. But certainly I can promise you outside of the deposit, you won't be paying room and board if you're not staying on campus.
Right. Yeah. So the question is what happens to the deposit itself? And I think that that's something to work out with housing and residential life and or financial aid student accounts. Maybe figure out a good approach to that, because the truth is a lot of this is, you know, evolving as time on a daily basis. So trying to figure out how to tackle issues as they rise up.
Right.
Okay. So next question, if a student is supposed to take computer science 1, but gets credit for it and decides to take computer science 2, what will happen when they get to spring, when they would normally be taking CS2? What happens to that slot on the tracking sheet?
That's a fantastic question. Usually what we do is we just kind of pull the next course in sequence up. For that particular one, that means you would take data structures in the spring, which would normally have been in the sophomore fall. And then in the fall, you would take algorithms. So we would sort of slot everything up one semester sooner.
Yeah, and it depends on the program, right? That would be for computer science. And so it would depend for the others, it would be slightly different.
Exactly. It would depend on, like, if you're in computer networking, then we would get you taking something like wireless networks or network admin in the spring instead. So we basically just move up the most important major coursework that we can. And ultimately, it would be a conversation with your advisor to determine kind of semester by semester what the best course is to move up. And then by the end, you'll have a light semester or two. Maybe that's extra room to do something like a minor in another department, or maybe you just take a light semester and try to work part-time while you're wrapping up, things like that. But we definitely try to push it forward so that the end of your time at Wentworth, you have more flexibility. I also just saw a question, I think it was sent to me privately, about CS1 specifically. If you're an experienced programmer, but not necessarily in Java, you know, if you don't have any college level credit that we can accept for CS1, you'll have to take CS1 anyway. If you do, and you don't know if you should start in CS2 or do CS1, again, ultimately, it's probably a little bit of a tough call. If you really don't know Java very well, probably you should just take CS1 with us. You'll know how to do loops and conditionals and, you know, methods or functions. You'll be familiar with the big picture concepts, but maybe the details of Java will be a little fuzzy. And rather than stepping into CS2, where we assume you know Java and you don't, which might be a struggle, probably you're better off starting in CS1. The other thing I'll mention, you know, is you can always talk to me if you're not sure. I'm happy to have a one-on-one, or I could put you in touch with any of the computer science faculty who are teaching computer science 1. I'm rambling a little bit. Jones, do you want to step in? Do you want to say anything particularly about CS1?
Yes, because you keep talking and I don't know how to stop. So, okay, here I can add on some information. I know many of you already have AP credit in computer science. And then I want to tell you the truth that in the college level, the computer science 1, we try to raise the bar to make sure you can survive in the future. So the high school AP in computer science, I personally think that is different from the college level computer science programming. So specifically in 2016, Wentworth, we have renovated our CS1 and CS2. We changed the programming language from C++ to Java because we noticed that Java has become the #1 programming language in industry for years. So there is a need to change. So we renovate the whole things, and Charlie and I, with another faculty, we reorganize the content. So it becomes much more difficult than original one. But this is needed because if you don't go through this one, you will have a difficulty to survive for later CS2 we talk about more in object-oriented, and later data structure and algorithms, everything taught in Java. So not mentioned about the junior year, you might have more some more elective classes, and even for the senior, you might interested in learning something like a mobile app development, that pure Java based. If you don't have enough hands-on experience, you really have a difficulty in understand or follow up with following interesting courses. So I know many of you already have credits. I also really want to help you to save money. But the problem is, if you don't really transform your learning from reading to really hands-on to get your hands dirty, it's very tough for you to really survive in following years. So I really recommend you, you need to seriously to consider, even you have some background experience in writing program, I can guarantee you the CS1, we have every week, we have a heavy programming exercise that will make you totally different, okay? So you can save one semester, but you will pay that in the following 3 years and half. So instead, I really think that CS1 can build up your foundation, and then you can have a very solid foundation later to taking a CS2, you can smoothly switch to object-oriented, and then although you still have a learning curve, however, during one semester, you already warm up and ready to take challenges. And another big thing I want to emphasize in our CS1, CS2 is when we design the courses, we try to bring in a lot of industry challenges into our course design. So all the problems you encounter are the real industry, maybe job interview questions, or the real question. You really need to independently to write your program. And in last sections, some students ask, so Jones, can you tell me that how much hours I need to spend for the course? So simply for CS1, normally we have 3 hours lecture per week, and then we have 1 lab for 2 hours. But 2-hour lab, normally we expect students to have double or triple time to finish the assignment. Why? Because we want your brain to function. Many of you just good in memorize, never ever think deeper. But the challenge we try to propose to you is a real industry question. You need to think through that spend a lot of time. So I don't want to scare you, but we want to make sure you can succeed in the future. So if we don't bring the future challenge to now, when can you survive? So it's impossible. So that is why I strongly encourage students from high school, you need to seriously to think of CS1, CS2 is a training process for you to survive in the following years. So I think many of you still have questions. I can tell you more about what we teach, and that it's very challenging. Okay, so you need to seriously to face that. But don't worry, the reason I'm one of the instructors, the reason we are here is to help you go through these difficulties, okay? We know that is painful. We know that is time consuming. However, if you want to succeed in the future, you need to invest your time with us. And we will go through this process with you, help you to understand this topic. Okay, so college level is totally different. I want to guarantee you totally different. So we need to seriously to face that. Okay, so that's just extra comments.
Thanks, Professor Jones.
Yeah.
Dave, where are we with the questions?
Yeah, so next question is, how does billing work? When are you expected to pay? And is there a cut down on the tuition? So first is that the tuition price is going to remain normal for this fall and spring semester. And the initial bill is going to be posted on Leopard Web. That's leopardweb.wit.edu. This is the online portal which you use to manage your account, to register for courses. And so that'll be posted on July 6th, 2020, and you'll have until July 30th to pay it. And so you could do it through that online portal. Another question is, if you already have English courses or something that you're transferring in for credit, does that reduce your tuition bill? No, it does not. There are 2 ways that tuition is billed. That's either by credit or by whether you're full-time or not. So if you're under 12 credits per semester, so 1 through 11 credits that you're registered for, you pay by the credit, and it's $1,000 something per credit. After you hit 12, between 12 and 20 credits, it's the same price for full-time tuition. So whether you're taking 12 credits or 20, same exact cost. If you go above 20, you pay the full-time tuition price plus that additional credit, 1,000, whatever 100 it is on top of that. So bringing in additional credits from elsewhere, you got your English done, that's fantastic. You might be able to you take some extra classes here or there to maybe potentially graduate a semester early or so, and that will cut down your tuition. But as far as what you're going to be paying this fall, it would be the same as it would be, you know, fall 2019 or what a normal tuition price would be for fall 2020, despite it being online courses that you're signed up for. Is the workload going to be modified for the virtual courses? We're happy to say that our faculty are working extra hard to make sure that they're maintaining the integrity and the rigor of all their courses online and trying to replicate that experience as best as they can. I hope you got a sense of that from what Professor Jones was just saying. If they want to add to that, so sort of the ways that they're going to maintain sort of that that level of learning and understanding and the workload that they normally do, I'm sure they're free to interject, but know that our professors are working really hard to make sure that they're getting the same level of outcomes in the virtual classes as they would if you were attending in person. Let me see, go down. If you guys want to add anything, feel free to interject. So even if you can't do all the normal clubs and activities, can a first-year student still live on campus? Yes, you still have that option as a student. I'm sure that residential life is going to be working to figure out how they can best sort of make sure that you get that first-year experience, that on-campus living experience as you can. If you're going to be living on campus while still having virtual courses, they want you to get that experience of actually being away, being in the university setting in which you're learning much more than just what's happening in the classroom, where you're building connections, friendships that potentially could last the rest of your life, including things that would carry over into the professional world as well. These are all really important things, and the people at Housing and Residential Life strongly believe in that. And they want to make sure that you're getting a good product if you decide to come to campus this fall. Charlie, do you know, is there any option for students to live together by major in Housing and Residential Life? Because there's a question about computer science freshmen being able to live together in dorms so that they can set up their own study groups or anything. That's something I'm not familiar with.
That's actually a really great suggestion. In the past, I think dorm and roommate assignments and the like, they've actually tried to mix majors to get you, exposed to folks who you're not going to see in class every day anyway. But this fall, I could definitely see some benefits to trying to group you by major, so you can, cut down on the number of people you need to see for study groups. Like that. That's a really great suggestion. Thanks for whoever made that. I will definitely pass that along to our housing folks. I imagine they're thinking about how this is going to work. So I will pass that on and ask them to take a good hard look at that, because that makes a lot of sense to me. But I don't know. In the past, that has not been the case, but maybe this fall things will look a little different.
If a student is looking for somebody to talk to one-on-one to help make sure they're ready for the fall, who can they reach out to for that?
Probably the best person you can talk to would be either me or Dave. If you have a list of questions or anything, you can send them, or either one of us could set up a one-on-one Zoom meeting with you to talk it through. If it's stuff that we don't have an answer for, we can always either find an answer or help connect you with the right other folks. So probably start with me and or Dave, and we'll make sure you're taken care of.
How are textbooks going to work? Because the bookstore is not going to be functioning. How will students be able to make sure they get the books that they need? Can they get them still through the bookstore online, or would they be shopping for them elsewhere? How will that work?
That's also a great question. I believe you can order them online through our bookstore anyway. But yeah, any books you get will have to be shipped to you, whether you get them through the bookstore or Amazon or Barnes and Noble or whatever. certainly some of your classes, the books will be more important than others. And I would just double check with your professors once you have a schedule, double check with your professors which books you really need, and which ones maybe are just recommended or optional. So you don't, get anything you don't have to have if you don't want it. But pretty much all the books that we use also have online or Kindle versions that you can buy on Amazon that are significantly cheaper anyway than getting a physical book. So for many of you, that may make sense. Some of you I know prefer the hard copy books as well, but in this situation, it might make more sense to look for a digital version. The Kindle ones tend to work out quite well in general.
Yeah, and you can at least use the bookstore online to figure out what book you need, because there's a question of how do I know what book I need to be buying from Amazon or wherever. You can find out on the bookstore webpage for Wentworth. It lists the sections and all this and professors, and it tells you what the assigned texts are for that semester. And the question is, how do I set up a Zoom meeting if I want to talk to Charlie or Dave one-on-one? The good news is that, because everyone's using Zoom now, the good news is you don't need to be setting up that meeting. We'll do that for you. We'll send you a link out so that when you click on that link at the right time, you'll automatically be entered into the meeting as long as you have Zoom installed on your computer. You'll be all good to go. And obviously you do, because you're here and you're asking that question. So you're all set.
Some students ask about the online learning experience, so including like a lab. So I think I can add on a little bit experience and information here. So using the Zoom is some condition we really hesitate to do, but we are forced to do due to the pandemic. So under that condition, we don't try to compromise with the quality and hours. So the 3 hours lab, the lecture, we will give you 3-hour lecture to build up your knowledge. And then for each week, about the CS1, we have the 2 hours lab. So every week, 2 hours lab, we basically will give you at least 2 problems to solve. So you need to apply your learned knowledge to solve the real problem. And during that 2 hours, basically, we also use the Zoom environment. So basically, we will all join together in the same Zoom meeting. And then instructor like me, I will show you 2 questions. We will explain the question very clearly, make sure you know every word we write there and you know what we want. And then during that 2 hours, the instructor will sit with you in the Zoom environment. If you have any question, we will give you permission. You can share your screen. So we will read your content together. We can break out to different smaller rooms. We can just side by side to look at your screen and provide you more information. But more important is at the beginning, we will spend about 20 minutes to explain what we want you to do for this coming week. So you will spend about 2 to 6 hours really try to finish that. If you have experience, maybe you can save some time, but basically that 2 hours we allocate, dedicate to stay with you. We will not try to compromise on that. We will sit together and show you the problem and talk to you and make sure everyone know what you should do. If you have any question, then we can talk in details. Either we share our screen or that you share your screen, and then we will try to back and forth to make sure you can get it. And this is something we really hesitate to do, but unfortunately, we can only do that. And then in normal classroom, in the lab hour, I just sit next to you. Normally during the semester around the middle, everyone, I just call your name directly. I don't need to check your face and your name. Why? Because every lab, we just kind of sit side by side to work together. So I think during the fall, we will do the same thing. During the lab, instructor will open the Zoom session and talk to everyone. So you will understand what you should do, and you need to spend a lot of quality time to think through the problem, solve the problem by yourself. But we will provide you support, give you some hint, and you can learn a lot by this process. So I think I answered the question mainly about the lab question students raise. Okay, I hope that is clear.
Thanks, Jones. I'll just add in a little bit from my experience as well, because I was teaching Computer Science 1 in the spring. And of course, like most universities and most of you in high school, we switched over to an online environment after we finished our spring break. And we definitely spent a lot of time thinking about how we were going to handle this and what tools we were going to use, and we settled on Zoom. Professor Jones mentioned the breakout rooms. I used those extensively during lab time and office hours time in the spring. And it actually ended up working out quite well. I mean, it wasn't quite the same as me sitting down and bumping shoulders with you and looking at your laptop and pointing at your screen. But the students that I had in class actually reported at the end of the semester that they felt that the online experience was essentially just the same as it had been in person when we were in person. And so that was nice that they felt that, you know, the tools we're using give them the same feel of the classroom as they had when we were in person. And since then, we've all had time to refine how we're doing it and you know, update how we handle these cases, get a little more experience. And so this fall, I think you'll find it to be quite smooth. And even if it's not exactly the same and not quite sitting shoulder to shoulder, at least you'll get the same level of learning and the same engagement from the faculty and others around campus as you would have in lab.
There's a question about academic advising and finding out who your advisor is. The Center for Academic Excellence has not yet assigned advisors to incoming freshmen. Normally, this is something you would find out in sort of when you're first getting to Wentworth. You would have a meeting one-on-one with, or not one-on-one, but as a group with your first year advisor. And your first year advisor is important because this is the person you're going to be meeting with about halfway through the semester when you're planning out what classes you're going to be taking for the spring and make sure you're all set. In fact, you're required to meet with them to get a code that allows you to register for those courses. So they're just going to be there to help make sure you're pointed in the right direction as you're continuing from the fall to the spring. So I imagine you're going to get this information in the coming weeks. It hasn't been determined yet who your specific first year advisor is. And that information, I'm sure, will be sent to you from the Center of Academic Excellence or elsewhere. And you could access that same information by logging into leopardweb.wit.edu and checking out your student information on there. Will be listed who your primary advisor is. If you are living at home, will there be opportunities to go to campus and connect with students? I don't see why not, right? I mean, you're free to come and go and use the facilities, go to the library, and use all the services they have to offer on campus. So I'm sure you'll be able to, go to the quad or meet with clubs that are operating on campus. The campus is otherwise going to be open during the fall for students to come by and visit. Your tuition is paying for all of that. So yeah, as long as there are student groups that are operating, or you can meet up with students, have study groups on campus in the library, all of that's going to be available for you. Charlie, you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you touched on everything, Dave. Definitely the campus facilities are open and you should take advantage if you want to. We've also, brainstormed a little bit about, do we want to try to, for example, get all of the, students together by major on campus for an event of some kind. Don't know exactly what that would look like or what it would be. And of course, it would have to follow all safety regulations. So we'd have to find rooms that are big enough to keep everyone 6 feet apart and all those things. But we're talking about it because even if you choose a fully virtual, you live at home, don't come to campus thing, if we did something once or twice throughout the semester, then, we would welcome anybody to come. So we're thinking about it, but I don't really know yet if anything will be able to happen or not, given the safety guidelines we have to follow.
And just to pick up on what Dr. Wiseman said there, as I mentioned before, being the lead faculty member of the cybersecurity program, I really want to make sure all of you cybersecurity students are being successful. So I actually really want to be on campus and meet with all of you periodically throughout the fall term as well. So like Dr. Wiseman said, as we can figure out those details and negotiate those, as long as we're meeting all those guidelines and stipulations we have on us, I'm hoping to be able to do that with some regularity as well, as is the cybersecurity club run by some of the other undergraduates as well.
Thanks, Ray. I'm going to just jump in here quickly. There were a couple of questions I saw. One was, will we have opportunities to learn programming languages other than Java? And the answer is absolutely. We start with Java in the first couple of courses, You'll do a little bit of assembly and a little tiny bit of C and computer organization. And then as a CS major, when you take classes like network programming, you'll probably do a little bit of Python. You'll do SQL. When you take databases, you'll do more C. You'll take a programming languages class in your junior year where you touch on several different major paradigms of programming, different ways of thinking about programming and approaches to programming. The goal by the end is that when you graduate with a degree in computer science, you ought to be able to pick up a new language and start using it really in a couple of days, not to be an expert, but just to get started. And then over a couple of weeks and months, really dive into the language to learn all the nooks and crannies, the pros and cons, the things that are great and the things that are terrible about that particular language. So the fact that we started in Java is really aligned with what high schools are primarily doing in the AP exam. But after that, yes, you'll be doing lots of stuff in languages other than Java. For those of you doing cybersecurity and networking, you'll also be taking courses like system admin, where you'll be doing scripting languages, which is, you know, things like Shell and Python and other things that are useful in that context as well. So yes, Java is just language number one out of many that you will learn. Also, I saw the question come through. Maybe there was a little confusion about pass-fail. We did in the spring and summer allow students to opt to either take their courses for regular graded credit, you know, A, B, C, D, and so on, or in a pass-fail option or something very much like it. The decision hasn't been made about the fall yet. You know, we'll be going into the fall kind of in full knowledge of what we're doing with the online environment on the faculty side and the student side. But I know that that conversation is still happening, so I don't know yet if that will be an option for the fall, and that'll be communicated certainly before the fall semester starts. All right, Dave, what other questions do we have here?
That was it about pass-fail. Yeah. IDs, how are students getting IDs? I have no idea, because how are the photos going to be done? And
let's go with magical elves for now until we have a better answer, because I don't have any idea how that'll work. Because normally you get your picture taken while you're on campus.
To choose their own picture and then just submit that. Nothing could possibly go wrong with students.
Right. Yeah, I don't know on that front yet. I'm sure there will be some process for you to get them, of course. Probably end up being mailed to you, but I don't know.
Work study opportunities for the fall. A lot of students, they might have in their FAFSA, they might have checked off that they are interested in having work study opportunities. Are we going to have things available for them this fall?
That's a great question. I'm sure there would be a few on-campus opportunities if you're on campus, because there's usually work studies, staffing areas around campus. I expect there will probably be less opportunities than normal given our situation, but I don't know for sure exactly what that looks like. There's usually through Student Life a posting, a list of every work study opportunity on campus, so you can always keep your eyes open for that once you get here. Looks like a student, Nathan, is coming to our rescue. He says you were mailed away to make your ID photos. So thanks. Hopefully you got a message about that. If you hadn't, then maybe it'll be coming soon. Also, I can't not comment on this. The Java is evil. Really, Professor Hanson? I wouldn't describe it as evil. I know you don't like it, but evil, that might be a stretch, my friend.
Evil.
I don't know. I do love me some Python. I mean, Python's great.
Just pick up any Java book and you will find in this order letters E, and then sometimes later V, and sometimes later in that I, and then L. Ergo, it's evil.
I see. Well, I'm glad you have strong opinions on this matter. If you're a student in the room who knows Java and happens to like it, don't worry. I promise you it's not actually evil. It's how it's used that matters. Anyway, but yeah, you definitely, one of the great things about being in the field of computing is that you're all allowed to have very strong opinions about which languages are amazing and which languages are just terrible. And you should express those opinions at all times, for sure.
Actually, a real moment on that is if it's worth having an opinion on, you should form a strong opinion on it. Otherwise, don't form an opinion.
Well, that is certainly your philosophy in life, Professor Hanson. Dave, what other questions are coming through here now that the chat is mostly filled with?
There's a little bit of
love and hate.
It's descending into a little bit of shenanigans, but I don't know if this is a real question or not because it's outside my wheelhouse. So if it's not legitimate, forgive me. But will students be learning how to use different Physic engines?
Oh, that's an interesting question. For things like game development, I assume is what you're referring to for different physics engines. It depends on classes you take. A lot of our students do games development for projects in their courses. We also have a couple of courses specifically about games development. This fall, Professor Schuster is teaching a course, kind of introductory game dev. He actually also gave a really cool colloquium to all of our current students over the summer on some initial kind of 2D programming. You know, we a bunch of students, we all worked together and you know, everyone built a kind of little mini roguelike, which was pretty awesome. So definitely it depends on what you want to learn, but you can take those classes for sure. And then you can always learn others on your own for other course projects, whether it be something like senior project or even something in like computer science 2, every student does a project, and we have a lot of students do games projects in there as well.
This is circling back for Ryan and for others who might have gotten here after this question was answered before, because it's an important question about class selection. The answer is we're not quite sure yet how it's going to work with your schedule being built for the fall. The registrar's office is exploring different options for how that can be done, whether that's putting together different blocks for you to choose from, and I want sort of this package of classes versus this one, or setting up different ticket times for groups of students to register and then go in order, kind of like they would normally during orientation, that there's different groups coming in at different days to do this. The answer is we're not 100% sure what that response is going to be. They're trying to figure out sort of the best solution to the challenge. So expect more information in the days to come how that will actually work. The answer is we don't know yet. Will there be any electives on ethical hacking? Absolutely. In fact, both this summer and this fall, I believe we are running electives on ethical hacking. As a freshman, you won't be able to take it just yet because you need to take both Computer Science 1 and a class on security principles. But this is an elective that seems incredibly popular so far. In fact, we have to regularly boost the number of sections that we have for it to meet demand. And hopefully we'll continue offering that, you know, for the years to come so that you guys can take it once you get those prerequisites under your belt.
Yeah, and if I can just jump in, or maybe let Ray jump in, we also have a course in offensive security, which is kind of related. Do you want to speak to that briefly, Ray?
Yeah, that's absolutely an ethical hacking course. As Dr. Wiseman mentioned, offensive security is a senior level course required in the cybersecurity program and an elective for some of the other programs, assuming proper prerequisite path and all. But yes, we're coming up with titles. It's a little bit more than just focusing on the ethical side of ethical hacking, but that's absolutely a component of the course. There will be some red team, blue team kind of things in there. There will also be the proverbial purple team, and kind of a new world is the orange team thrown in there as well. All of those things will be covered along with different strategies on vulnerability assessment, of penetration testing, and a whole host of tools on how to do that. Understanding that all of those skills are being put in place for you to identify vulnerabilities in your own organization's systems so that you can patch those and prevent others from using them before you figure out what they are.
Great. Thanks, Professor Hanson. I want to just take a moment here. It's 4 o'clock, and I'm sure some of you also have other things you need to do. And so, you know, at this point, we're still continuing just to answer questions. So the faculty and I will be happy to stick around for a little while longer. If you have more questions, keep asking. But before you leave, let me just share a couple of last thoughts. First, again, if you have questions that didn't get answered, and there was a lot in the chat, so I apologize if we missed anything, you know, please reach out to me or Dave. Dave, can you actually put all of our emails in the chat for you and me and the 3 faculty. So you can reach out to any of us, but generally, probably Dave or I is a good place to start. The other thing that I would like to just take a moment to talk about as we wrap up, obviously all of Wentworth, all of the faculty and staff and Wentworth as a whole, and particularly our president, we've been very much following all of the unbelievable events happening around us, obviously COVID, but also the Black Lives Matter movement and social justice movements that are happening right now. And I would like to just assure everyone that Wentworth and everyone at Wentworth fully supports Black Lives Matter and all of the related movements that are happening. Many of you may have experienced systemic racism in your lives or have seen it in various forms, and it's 100% not okay. And it's on every one of us to go and help change the world. It's not on one person or a small group of people. It's on all of us to go out there and be advocates to end systemic racism across this country. It's a problem that has been in this country for a very long time, and it's time for it to end. And all of us should do this. And so as you're finishing up your summer and thinking about starting your college career, now is a great time to make sure that you have a really great understanding of the world around us, the country we live in, and what needs to change, because we can all work together to make it a better place. Certainly the Wentworth campus and our community, but more than that as well, because it's important all the time. So with that, the rest of us are going to stick around for a few more minutes. If you have questions you haven't asked, please put them in the chat. Otherwise, feel free to take off. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Again, reach out to us anytime with questions as the summer progresses. Thank you all very much. Stay safe out there. Enjoy your time over the summer, and looking forward to seeing all of you here this fall. Good. I see one question. Yes, this is going to be put online as a recording, so you can review it later. Once it's posted, I'll send a link to everybody so you can review it on your own time. And again, questions, just add them as you have them. Let's see, Ray, I see a question about cybersecurity co-ops. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. The co-ops will go through our co-ops and careers office. Dr. Wiseman and I have been working actually for about 18 months now to start organizing different companies, specifically looking for our cybersecurity students into those co-ops. We have a substantial number of those organizations now, and we will continue growing that as the program grows. So it really depends on the organization, but they are expecting cybersecurity students. So the skill set that you will have by the time you go to your first co-op will be a solid foundation in cybersecurity principles, as well as both networking and computer science principles. So you'll really build off of that knowledge, and the organizations have a variety of different positions ranging from SOC analysts to doing secure code development and analysis of existing code. So it's really going to be a whole host of different organizations and different needs. But the intention is that, yes, you will get hands-on cybersecurity skills with your co-ops.
Perfect. And just for those of you that are still here, in case you're not 100% sure on this, every student is required to do 2 semesters of co-op. Most do 3. Most do an optional co-op at the end of their sophomore year, but you're required to do at least 2. And of course, we do a lot of support. We do a lot of help to make sure you're successful in the search and the whole process, but everyone does at least 2. Let's see. More questions. Looks like Jones answered the game development one. Is there an option to take select courses virtually rather than all of them? Not so much. Basically, what you'll see is that pretty much all of the, well, in fact, all of the computer science courses, all the networking courses, all the cyber courses, all the management and humanities and English and social science courses, all of them are already fully online. The only courses that you might take that are part of our programs would be science courses. If you're a freshman, you won't be taking those generally. If you're a transfer, you might be trying to take a science course this fall. And so you can decide on that one if you want to do it in person by selecting an on-campus experience, or if you want to do it virtually, then you can do it online. Question about housing. I don't think any of us here can speak too much to housing. That there should be or have been a session about housing as part of new student orientation. Manny, if you have particular questions, feel free to reach out to either Dave or me, and we can get you in touch with somebody from housing who can answer those for you. But I don't know enough about it to speak with any level of confidence. Any other, as I'm just scanning the chat, does anybody see any questions that we've missed? No. Okay.
I have something to add, just real quick. For those of you who do have questions about housing, the Department of Housing and Residential Life, they are holding virtual office hours for students each week, and they'll continue doing so through June 30th. And that'll be with Matt Heiser, the Associate Director. If you go to wit.edu/reslife, that's wit.edu/reslife, there'll be a Zoom meeting link, and you could go there every Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. and speak directly with the Associate Director for Housing and Residential Life. So there'll be really, let's see, one more of those. So next Tuesday at 10 a.m., you could join this Zoom meeting and ask any questions you have with Matt Heiser. And obviously you can email him any other time for questions, but this would be an opportunity to speak with him one-on-one over Zoom. And so that's wit.edu/reslife.
It's RES Life, right?
Yeah, RESLIFE.
It's too bad if it were REZ Life, that would be cooler. All right. I don't see any other questions, so I think we'll wrap up. Again, thank you for everyone who stuck out to the end here. Don't hesitate to reach out to any of us with questions after today, if anything comes up anytime between now and September, and of course, once you're here as well. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day.